Hello, dear friends of astrology. I am Sangat, and I'm here again to talk about another report on the full moon in Aquarius this time on August 15th. Aquarius at 22 degrees, I think 24 minutes. Just a quick reminder about the astrological energies, right? These energies are general for everybody. These are energies that are affecting the general collective, and it may give different results for every individual because since every person has a very unique chart, a birth chart, and a progress chart, etc., and we are all at different levels of evolution, and we make, of course, different kinds of decisions and all that. So these energies may affect our lives in different ways. So it's not that this is exactly what's going to happen to you, but keep in mind that these are general energies, and if you want to know exactly how this is going to affect your life, you need a personal reading, right? As I said, every person is unique. These planets transiting right now in the sky may make aspects to your planets or not, maybe transiting certain areas of your life, zodiac houses may be affected. So it depends on every individual how this is going to play out. But you can see signs in the public and in the collective, you can see signs of these energies. So in order to get started, I will, talk about first about the background energies, which are set up by or established by the slow moving planets, which are the outer planets from Saturn out, Saturn, even Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. So these, and I'm going to start by talking about Uranus, right? Uranus is at the time of the full moon in Aquarius on August 15th. Uranus will be stationary retrograde. That means that from the point of view of Earth, it looks like it's not moving. And those times, what happens is the symbolism of the planet is stronger and is more powerful. The energy is more powerful, more potent. So Uranus in Taurus has in history, right? There are a few things that I want to mention about this because we are seeing signs of changing values, right? Taurus is values is ruled by Venus and its values, right? And also Taurus is a fixed sign, so it represents it's earth sign, so it represents everything that is solid, that it doesn't want to move. And here come Uranus, and it may help us suddenly and unexpectedly change values, and those values can be financial. It can be also the things that we are attracted to, and the things that we desire for our well-being, for our survival, right? So we will change values regarding resources, especially the earth resources, like the products of the earth, the plants, food, the values about, for example, how we value animals. And we are already seeing, since Uranus also represents freedom, we may feel this need to free the animals from suffering, for example. So that's another current that we are seeing. So people also may change the values about agricultural techniques. For example, agriculture may be done with technology, may be improved. What else? And we may also have a revalorization of the earth and the natural resources. As I said, animals and plants they may have a new value, more important. They could be more important for us at this time. And since we are, for example, we are now seeing the climate changes, so we see, for example, bees dying because of several reasons, right? And unfortunately, if bees die, the food production may be a lot, maybe decreasing a lot, because they are the pollinizers, right? And so that's just one piece of the puzzle, but there are so many other things that may change, and we may start valuing the earth and taking care of it, right? Another value that may change abruptly and without any notice is the value of money, and how we use it. There's a very nice article that I heard in NPR the other day. I may put the link in the description box, because it's very interesting how they analyze money as value, and the value that we place in it, right? We place value on things that we desire, right? We may have a high desire of food and the products of the earth, because we may be lacking them in the future. So those may be important values to consider. So I also want to talk about the negative part, because every planet has a certain level of energy, but it could translate into positive or negative effects. And the negativity could be, for example, that technology can be introduced in such a level that can destroy nature. We may be asked to have chips on our bodies, and so technology can invade nature in a way, or be intrusive in nature to the point of being disruptive, and being, for example, Uranus is electricity. So there are already technologies that are aimed at healthcare, for example, with chip implants on the brain and in other parts of the body, in order to treat certain illnesses. So, and this could be a very good thing if it is used in a moderate way, but it could be also used in a negative way. For example, introducing chips in our brain, it could give control to in the future. If the technology is continually developing, it could have control over our brains, right? So these changes, and Uranus is not gender specific, for example, but it's also a neutral kind of energy. It could go positive, but it also could go negative. And in the negative side, for example, if we look at history, Uranus in Taurus, it was in Taurus in 1518. And around those years, it was I would say, the invasion of America. So Europeans and others started coming to America, and the conquistadores, right? And they came, for example, destroying those cultures, right? Because of what? They consider those people inferior, right? At those times, the human beings were Christians. So Christian meant, it was a synonym of human being. So if you were not Christian, you were not human for those Europeans that came to America. So, well, there was aberrations like, for example, priests coming to the native, trying to convert them to Christianism, and they had them, for example, eat papers with the statements about Christianity. For example, I don't know, believe in God or something like that, and they had them eat those papers because there was no other way to communicate, right? Until then, they imposed the language, and so they did all the atrocities. So, anyways, that was a kind of xenophobia, right? And unfortunately, that was not the only time when Uranus and Taurus caused this. In closer times, in 1934, Uranus entered Taurus, and there was a movement of nationalisms. In Europe, there was fascism and Nazism, and that was a brewing of xenophobia. Okay, separation from people. These people are okay; those people are not okay for us. So, and then it evolved into purification, right? Rejecting people because of whatever, the culture, their color, or their whatever. And that was another case of xenophobia while Uranus was in Taurus. So I don't think I need to explain the kind of xenophobia we're living today with Uranus in Taurus, because it's all over the world. It's not just in the United States, it's all over the world. There is a separation. So, and Uranus also symbolizes separation, right? And liberation, and movement that is this electrical current that separates, that breaks, and and also supported by Saturn in Capricorn, which is also boundaries and dryness and separation. Saturn in Capricorn is frontiers, is walls built to separate territory and people. And the aim is to find safety, security, right? So Saturn builds walls and polarize and divide groups of people because of fear of safety, right? Because of fear, that period. So because Saturn is fear, right? Represents fear. So now we have another planet that is in the background with this powerful, it's incredibly powerful energy, and it's Pluto. And when I say incredibly powerful, is if you think of the atomic energy, that's Plutonian energy, right? So Pluto is, I think I mentioned that before, is the lord of the abyss, the lord of the underworld, and is the lord of the rotten, the decomposition, the destruction, and also the rebirth and the recreation and the empowerment. So uh, Pluto is an energy to reckon with. I mean, when I say Plutonian, you understand what I mean. So it's at this point now, it's combined with the Capricornian energy of institutions, and it also um, strengthens the symbolism of Capricorn, meaning that governments and institutional and governmental authorities and structures which are Capricorn, right, will be looking for more strengthening, for using force in order to impose restrictions, in order to impose their authority. And even though the South Node was with Pluto and with Saturn, it is now moving backwards away from Capricorn, and next year it will move into Sagittarius, and I'm going to talk about that too. But what happens is that the South Node with this conjunction of Pluto and Saturn, draining, right, the corruption, draining these strong powers that are oppressive and corrupted, right? But pretty soon, the South Node will move away, and this conjunction that will happen, Saturn-Pluto conjunction that will happen in January, will be alone without the South Node, even though the South Node won't move out of Capricorn until later. But what I mean is that the powers that are present now, they could become stronger. And so when the South Node next year, right? Don't remember if it is mid-year next year that will move into Sagittarius. It will, the South Node of the Moon is where we eliminate things that are not longer useful. So, but it will also may decrease the higher knowledge, right? the look for people looking for higher knowledge, higher understanding. It may decrease the access to the truth and to moral values. It also may decrease the influence of religions, right? But it also um, uh, may decrease the access to wisdom and the optimism and positive. It may be um, very introspective, but it may decrease the value of, for example, cultures, different cultures. It may decrease the value of international travel, which is positive, I guess, if you want to travel at that time. It may decrease the cost of it, but it may also decrease the importance or the value of cultural traits, which may not be that positive, right? Because cultures are developed in different places to survive the different environments, right? And when we gather the amount of collective knowledge of different cultures, we have more ways to survive and different resources in order to survive as humanity. And so if we eliminate cultures, like, for example, when the Europeans came to America and they crushed and eliminated those cultures, we lose ways of surviving. So, and we saw that in history a lot. So, what else? So next, in fact, by December, I think Jupiter will enter Capricorn. And that's not good news either, because Jupiter is not happy in this sign of Capricorn, because Capricorn is dry, is limits, is restrictions, and Jupiter is expansion and higher knowledge and wisdom and truth, and Capricorn is regulation, and you. So they are two opposing energies. So that will give kind of the same effect of the South Node in Sagittarius. So Jupiter in Capricorn may bring restrictive laws, more regulations coming from governments, and they might have a double edge, because they might, since it is Jupiter, and Jupiter is always positive, right? Except that those regulations may have a double edge. They might benefit in one way, but they may be harming in some other ways. So, for example, I was reading the other day a project to eliminate non-discrimination protections for minorities, right? So, for example, minorities who have access to certain services because they have certain needs, special needs, right? So that may save, for example, money to the taxpayer, but on the other hand, may increase the minority vulnerability and discrimination, right? So it those regulations may do both benefit and harm. So, for example, for special need people, they make reduce their access to healthcare, giving a privilege to rich people to have healthcare, and the poor people or minority people don't have access to it. So it may aggravate that situation. So What else? We have Uranus, Saturn, Pluto, Jupiter. Okay, Jupiter is at 14 degrees of Sagittarius, right? The point of the great attractor. That's a huge black hole. Um, Anyways, it's a very powerful point. And it is Jupiter is stationary direct, which means that at the same time, as I said, Uranus going retrograde, on the 11th of August, Jupiter is going direct. Since it is a huge planet, it will take time until it gains some speed. But once it does, Jupiter will speed up to, I think, it's the 20 something degrees of Capricorn in one way, right? It will come back retrograde, but I mean, it will go fast. So Jupiter direct, as I said, may start giving us optimism. Jupiter direct, we have been reconsidering, reevaluating, and ruminating things in this area of our life where Sagittarius falls and Jupiter is. But now, from now on, it will be so fast developing. Jupiter will be in full force, especially when stationary mid-month. It will be very powerful, especially because it's going to be trining the Leo area where there are 4 planets. It's the Sun, Venus, Mars, and Mercury. So things will start developing very fast and fiery, fast and furious, because those are fire signs, right? So we will have inspiration, we will have the spiritual force to go for it. Okay, so August 14th, will give us the superior conjunction of Venus and the Sun. What that means? It means that Venus is conjunct the Sun exactly. It's called Cazimi. And what happens there is that Venus is called to her senses because of the Sun's authority, right? So one of the things that I thought about this is this maximum authority. It could be a father figure, but it could also be the head of a state. So, or a head of a global institution of some big authority. And this could have repercussions on the financial market. Especially because Venus is the ruler of Uranus in Taurus, right? Taurus is ruled by Venus, so that makes Venus ruler of Uranus. So it will be, even though there are not direct, indirect aspect, but Venus has an effect on Uranus, and Uranus has an effect on Venus because of this relationship, rulership, right? So what happens is that all of a sudden, a financial authority in the world may make a decision or an announcement or something about values changes. So, and they may be related to how do you call it, electronic values, like this virtual money, right? And what other things? but it could also relate to values of the land, or something related to financial matters, right? And it also has an effect on relationships. So Venus is kind of more orderly there, not that free spirit because of the sun's authority, right? There could be tariff regulations appearing mid-month, and they could be abrupt. They could be sudden changes in the stock market. Uranus rules the stock market. So there could be abrupt changes in values or finances or love or desires, right? And it could be changes in desires that you never considered. They might be relevant at this point. Okay, so the full moon in Aquarius is at 22 degrees a day after this Venus Cazimi. So Venus will be nearby, opposing the moon as well. So the full moon is a culmination or an ending of a certain cycle, right? That started with a new moon at 8 degrees of Leo at the beginning, the 1st of August. So, and Venus was also involved at that time. Let's see. So it might well be about something related to finances. So in this case, we have the sun, which represents, as I said, authority figures, opposing the moon, which represents the people. In general, and in Aquarius, it represents the collective also, the people as a collective. So it might be an opposition, and considering that Mars is also nearby, about less than 6 degrees away. So people in the moon in Aquarius is rebellious, right? Because Aquarius is ruled by Uranus, and even though Uranus is not an exact square, but it is in Taurus, which is squaring Mars, squaring Mars and squaring Leo and Aquarius. So the square is not exact or close or anything, but what it means is that these three signs are fixed signs, and they don't want to give in. They don't want to relinquish their positions. So the people will be in rebellion, and you might see that anywhere in the world. I'm not just talking about the U.S. I'm talking about everywhere in the world, because anywhere you look around, you'll see that the authority figures are taking a power that is it's a privileged power, but they are overusing the power in order to subjugate the people, right? So people will rebel even more, and they will have this opposition. As I said, Mars is very close, so even these authorities can use military in order to repress people. So This is brewing soup for civil unrest and civil wars, and we may see outbursts somewhere in the world if this antagonism is not giving in on any of the extremes. Then the clashes could be very difficult. This is an unfortunate time, but this is possible. I'm not saying that it's going to happen, but if you think of the violence that just exploded last weekend, and I mean, it's anywhere in the world this is happening. So it's kind of the humanity is going through this hard time. Um, and this energy in Capricorn is getting stronger and stronger. And let's wait until Saturn goes direct and see what the structures, what the regulations are, what is going to come up when Saturn turns direct in Capricorn. That will be the time when the regulations will be tighter, and the transformation will be stronger. So, so Saturn is in conjunct or semi-sextile Jupiter, and I was looking at the meaning of this semi-sextile, and there's a need to be to have discrimination in the limitations and regulations and restrictions, right? Because those can be unwise, and sometimes we see leaders, for example, trying to show maturity when there is none, and looking like they are taking, wise or impressive measures or responsible actions, when in fact they lack the perspective and the wisdom. So the things that they say or do, the regulations they take, or the decisions they make are kind of look unreal, right? Too rigid or too ineffective. So there's also fear of expansion. Jupiter may want us to expand and travel and do things, big things, but there's always this Saturn restricting us, either retrograde or direct. That'll be the same. Okay, so this is the energy of the full moon. As I said, those are fixed signs. They don't want to give in. Uranus is in a fixed sign, so it will be kind of an electricity that will shake us for sure. So there's also another thing. Mercury is approaching a square in Leo, right? It's square to Uranus. So we may find the ideas or communications may be intransigent. There might be stubborn discussions, people not wanting to move or budge their opinions, especially because these opinions will be affected by this electrical Uranus and disruptive And this need to this need for liberation, right? So this Mercury is giving a message of liberation. Is square Uranus, so Uranus is the impulse for speaking up and talking about the need for freedom, the need for expression, right? And especially Mercury in Leo wants to say what he wants to say because he is in the stage, right? Leo is the performer, and here comes Mercury, and he has something to say. So, especially because he wants this new ideas, different ideas, very, very different ideas, and very futuristic ideas. So he wants to say those things for everybody to hear, right? It's a Leo Mercury. So it's like the the performer broadcasting everywhere this liberating ideas or thinking. So the positions and maybe in our personal lives also, we may be stubborn, we may not yield to what other people want, and everybody will be in that non-yielding mode of thinking and talking. So and one other thing that I wanted to point out is that Mercury is also trining Chiron. And I'll put a link in the description box about the Chiron activation in the month of August, where I explain more extensively what this trine with Mercury means. But it may be it may come up with something that happened in June 7th and even in May, because in the month of May, Mercury, I think, was conjunct Chiron, if I if I remember correctly. And then it was square, or yeah, sextile and square. And so those moments are different stages in the relationship between Mercury and Chiron. Remember, Chiron is injuries to the head, for example. And it's also, and Mercury also represents youth, represents young people. It also symbolizes journalism. So it may be related to these expressions of hurt from young people, or communications about also what Chiron symbolizes, which is Chiron in Aries, which is the pain of being oneself, the pain of not being able to initiate, not being able to show up as we are, and also thinking for ourselves, right, in relationship with Mercury. So there is a hard time to express this pain. But since it is a trine, it may be also an opportunity to heal some injuries, or to heal some mental conditions at this time. So I think I gave every drop that I could extract from this chart. We still have this trine from Neptune to the North Node that I think is very helpful to apply this collective, the collective unconscious, and use it in order to help us go where we need to go for safety. These two water signs help each other in a search for a higher spiritual condition, spiritual goals, right? That may take us to a safer place as a collective, with the safety of our families, the safety of our emotional life, right? So we may aim with this square Jupiter Neptune, we may be aiming to a higher level of consciousness, a higher level of spiritual living, and that may support this direction that this chart is marking towards Cancer, a sign that looks for safety, security, protection, and the protection of our emotions, emotional life, which in the end is what really counts, right? So I hope this gives you ideas on how to interpret your own chart. I mean, it's very challenging times, and I encourage you to find any spiritual practice that you may feel they're fitting for you. It doesn't mean to practice a certain religion, just something that helps you be in contact with nature, for example, where you can commune with natural forces and the natural and the natural laws also, understanding how things work in nature and in the cosmos, how everything is in harmony, and how we as human beings, as creators of our own future, we can be in harmony with those. Otherwise, there's no way to survive if we don't harmonize with nature and with the natural laws, right? So peace be with you. I wish you the best, and you can make comments under the video, so we establish a dialogue, and you can tell me what you think about these times and what you make of these energies. So many blessings, and Satnam. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, please like it, make comments, and please share it with your friends. That will help my channel. The making of this video takes several hours of research and investigation. So if you feel so inclined, please make a donation also. That will help me to continue, right? So thank you for watching, and see you next time. Bye-bye.